Ваше превосходительство, уважаемые участники и гости форума, мы продолжаем работу пленарного заседания съезда. Утреннее заседание было насыщено содержательными выступлениями, каждое из которых внесло значимый вклад в обсуждение ключевых тем форума. Во второй половине дня нас также ожидает целый ряд содержательных и интересных выступлений. Напомню, что для выступлений предоставляется до 8 минут. Уважаемые участники и гости форума, следующее слово предоставляется большому другу Казахстана, уважаемому гостю нашего съезда, председателю управления мусульман Кавказа, шейху Улислам Аллах Шукюру Пашазаде. Уважаемый шейх, пожалуйста, вам слово.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Zat-ı Kazakistan Respublikası Parlamentinin Senat Sadri Mevlan Aşımbayev canabları, Zat-ı Aileleri BMT Sivilizasyalar Alyansı'nın Ali nümayəndəsi Miguel Angel Maratones canabları, möhtərəm qurultay iştirakçıları, din, dövlət ve ictimaiyyət xadimləri. Mötəbər toplantımızın iştirakçılarını səmimi salamlayır, Azərbaycan xalqının və dövlət lideri Zat-ı Aliləri İlham Əliyev cənablarının salam və xeyir dualarını qurultay iştirakçılarına və qardaş Qazaq xalqına yetirməkdən şərəf duyur, Ulu Rəbbimizdən bəşər ailəsi naminə bütün səy və fəaliyyətlərimizə ravac verməsini diləyirəm. Dünyanın nüfuzlu dini liderlerinin ənənəvi zirvə görüşü olan Qazaqistan qurultayları beynəlxalq aləmdə öz önəmini 2-10 illikdən artıq müddət ərzində təsdiq etmiştir. Astana qurultaylarının müstəsna əhəmiyyəti dini liderlərlə siyasi, ictimai xadimlərin daimi fəaliyyətdə olan platforması olmasındadır. Belə bir bəşəri əhəmiyyətli ideyanın ərsəyə gəlməsi və davamlı mövcudluğunu təmin edən Qazaxıstan dövlətinə, onun müdrik siyasi rəhbərliyinə dərin minnətdarlığımı bildirmək istərdim. Zat-ı Aliləri Qazaxıstan Prezidenti Kasım Cömert Tokayev cənablarının rəhbərliyi ilə Qazaxıstan tərəqqi və mənəvi inkişafı yollarında inamla irəliləyir. Əminik ki, Qazaxıstan dövləti dinlər və sivilizasiyalar arası dialoqun inkişafı prosesində faal rolunu bundan sonra da davam edəcəkdir. Hörmətli tədbir iştirakçıları, 8-ci Astana Qurultayının dinlərin dialoqu, gələcək naminə sinerji mövzusunu gündəmə gətirməsi mühüm addımdır. Müharibələrin səngimədiyi dövrdə hər birimizin cəmiyyətin bütün zümrə və təbəqə nümayəndələrinin məsuliyyət payı vardır. Və biz bunu dərindən dərk edərək nifrət çağırışlarının qarşısının alınması, insan qardaşlığı mühitinin inkişafı yönündə fəaliyyətimizi artırmalıyıq. Dünyanın müxtəlif nöqtələrində günahsız insanların qətl və faciələrinə son qoyulması üçün mənəvi məsuliyyətlərimizdən çıxış etməli, beynəlxalq hüququn qüvvə və imkanlarından istifadə etməliyik. Daha bir narahat edici məqam suni intellektin həyatımıza nüfuz etməsiyle bağlıdır. Rəqəmsal texnologiyaların hədsiz inkişafı dövründə bu yeniliklərin həyatımızın bütün sahələrinə sərhədsiz sirayət etməsi, yeni imkanlarla yanaşı yeni təhdidlər gətirir. Bu məsələdə ən mühüm olan mənəvi etik hədlərin gözlənilməsi, yaranma ehtimalı yüksək olan fəsadların önlənməsi məqamıdır. Möhtərəm qurultay iştirakçıları, uca yaradanın yaratdığı müqəddəs dəyər olan insan həyatının qorunması naminə dinlərin dialoq və əməkdaşlığı zəruridir. Bu əməkdaşlıq 2019-cu ildə Əbu Dəbidə imzalanmış insan qardaşlığına dair sənədin ruhunda davam və inkişaf etməlidir. Mukaddes kitabımız Kur'an-ı Kerim'de Yüce Allah buyurur ki Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim Bismillahirrahmanirrahim ve la tufsidu fil ardı ba'de islahiha. Sadakallah. Yeryüzü ıslah olunduktan sonra orada fesat töretmeyin. Dini lider olarak bütün siyasi kadimlerine müracaat ederek silahların susturulmasına, barış muhitinin berkararı namına diplomatik səyləri desteklemeye çağırıram. Şükürler olsun arazi bütövlüğünü barpa etmiş Azerbaycan devleti, azad ettiğimiz arazilerimizde ekosit ve medeni manevi irsimize karşı vandalizmin ağır nəticələrini aradan kaldırarak geniş miqyaslı quruculuk işleri hayata geçirir. Bu esnada kardeş Kazakistan devletine Füzuli şehrinde hediye olarak inşa ettirdikleri Kurmanqazı adına uşaq yaradıcılığının inkişafı mərkəzinə görə dərin təşəkkürümü ifadə edirəm. Astana qurultayının hər zamanki kimi yüksək səviyyədə təşkil olunmasına və qonaqpərvərliyə görə Kazakistan dövlətinə, onun rəhbərliyinə, məsul şəxslər bir daha dərin minnətdarlığımı və ən xoş arzularımı yetirirəm. Uca yaradan ölkələrimizdə də daimə sülh ve eminanlığı karar versin. Dünyanı hifz etsin. Amin. Esselamu aleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuhu.
Благодарю вас, уважаемый шейх Пашазаде, за теплые слова в адрес Казахстана и содержательное выступление. Спасибо также за многолетнюю поддержку нашего съезда и за ваше личное активное участие в нашем форуме. Distinguished guests of the Congress, now I would like to give the floor to Director General of the Islamic World Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, Dr. Salim Al-Malik. Dr. Salim Al-Malik, the floor is yours.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله المعبود وجهه فلا معبود سواه، والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى الموكب الأمين من أنبياء الله المرسلين. معالي السيد مولين إشمامبييف رئيس مجلس الشيوخ لبرلمان جمهورية كازاخستان، رئيس أمانة مؤتمر قادة الأديان العالمية والتقليدية، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. ها نحن نلتقي أيها المؤتمرون الكرام في الدورة الثامنة من هذا الملتقى المتميز بعد مضي 3 سنوات كنا أيضا فيها حضورا خلال الدورة السابعة، وتحت ذات المظلة المحفوفة برعاية فخامة الرئيس توكييف وكرم أهل كازاخستان، وقد اشتهروا عبر الزمان بحسن الاستقبال ونبل الضيافة. نلتقي بعد مضي هذه السنوات لننظر فيما أقرناه يومئذ، ثم نعمد إلى تقييم الجهود التي بذلناها على تفاوت العطاء المحكوم بظروف شتى. نلتقي وقد شهدت المعمورة وتشهد تطورات مريعة في السياق الإنساني، تطورات تقول بأن ابتعاد الإنسان عن أخيه الإنسان أصبح أمراً واقعاً معهوداً، والأخطر في ذلك أنه صار أمراً اعتيادياً لا يستثير اهتماماً ولا يكاد يلقي التفاتا، فزادت مساحات التباعد وضمرت ساحات التبادل، زادت أعداد المهاجرين عبر قوارب الموت، وانخفضت وتائر الاستقرار في شتى الأمصار. امتلكنا كل سبل الراحة فتملكنا التعب، تسيدنا الفضاء بعلمنا فظلمنا الأرض بجشعنا، اختصرنا الزمن في إنجازاتنا فتباطأت علاقاتنا، تضاعف حجم الإنتاج المادي فتلاشى عطاء الروح، باتت مشاهد القتل المنقول على الهواء مباشرة تغذي لحظات فرجتنا لما تبدعه الشاشات، وصارت تستدعي لدى ناشئتنا بطولات متوهمة في أجواء القتل والتدمير التي تتيحها برامج الألعاب الإلكترونية. أي جنون يحاصر عالمنا، وأي مستقبل مظلم يطارد تفاؤلنا بمستقبل مضيء. لقد أخذت الأرض زخرفها حقا، فهل نحن موعودون بما يسرق منا فرحة الظن بأننا امتلكنا كل شيء وأننا قادرون على التحكم في أي شيء؟ أيها المؤتمرون الكرام، إنها لحظة مسؤولية أشد خطراً مما يظن الكثيرون، والمفارقة في ذلك أن الإشكال واضح وجلي، وأن جذور الأزمة لا تكاد تخفى على فطنة تحصيف أو إدراك متبع. إنه الخواء الروحي باختصار شديد. الخواء الروحي الذي جعل وتائر الصراعات تزداد خلال العامين الماضيين بنسبة 23% وفقاً لتقارير معهد السلم الدولي. لقد مثل العام الماضي أعلى معدل النزاعات العنيفة منذ العام 1946. إنه الخواء الروحي الذي يجعل وتائر القتل ترتفع لتصل إلى 8 حالات من بين كل 100,000 حالة. إنه الخواء الروحي الذي يقود إلى أن يشهد العالم كوارث مجاعات بسبب الاعتداءات لم يشهد لها التاريخ مثيلاً كما يحدث اليوم في غزة والسودان واليمن وسواهم. إنه الخواء الروحي الذي يجعل الاتجار بالجنس والصناعة الجنسية يبلغان حدوداً مخيفة تكشف عورة العالم الذي نعيش فيه. فالتقارير تقول إن 83 مليار دولار هي حجم تجارة الجنس في عام واحد. يضاف إلى ذلك تجارة المخدرات البالغ حجم اقتصادها سنوياً نحو 186 مليار دولار بواقع 292 مليون متعاط حسب تقرير المخدرات العالمي لعام 2024. أما تجارة السلاح، تجارة القتل العمد، فيبلغ حجمها العالمي 5 تريليونات و3 مليارات دولار. كل تلك الشواهد تعتبر نواقيس خطر جامح، ولا أمثل الموقف من القيادات الدينية قلوباً وأذهاناً وألسنة يحتاج إليها العالم اليوم أكثر من أي وقت مضى. إن الدبلوماسية الدينية التي ضمتها الإيسوسكو إلى أكناف مفهومها الجديد الدبلوماسية الحضارية لهي السبيل المثلى للتمكين لعالم يسوده الأمن والسلام والقيم ومكارم الأخلاق. صحيح أن الهجمة على القيم أكبر من طاقة المجابهة، ولكن في تعاضي القيادات الروحية وتآزر إراداتهم مع المعهود منهم في التفاني القيادي والصمود، أقول فيما يجعلنا نطمئن إلى حصافة رؤاهم ونجاعة مبادراتهم. وفي هذا السياق يهم الإيسوسكو أن توصي على طريق استكمال هذا المسار بما يلي: أولاً، الاستفادة التامة من مبادرة إستانا في إنشاء مرصد مرجعي يوفر المعلومات ويجري التحليلات ويقترح التوجهات والسياسات التي يكون بمقدور القيادات الدينية الوفاء بها جهد المستطاع. ثانياً، الاستناد إلى مبدأ التحديث وتطويع آليات العصر ولغة العصر وموارد العصر باستنفار جهود الخبراء المتخصصين من ذوي الوعي بدور الدبلوماسية الحضارية في أبعادها الروحية الدينية. ثالثاً، استحداث مقياس علمي معتمد في دراسة الحالات بغية استشراف المآلات المتصلة بقدرة القيادات الدينية على الوفاء بأدوارهم المبتغاة. إن كل ذلك أيها القادة الكرام بمقدوره أن يخلق شبكة توافق علمي وعملي يكون بمقدورها النهوض بواجبات المكافحة والمجابهة. كيف يمكننا بلوغ هذا الطموح وتحقيق هذا الحلم؟ لا شك أن في مداولات ملتقانا هذا ما يجيب على السؤال وعلى غيره من أسئلة ستظل من خلال جولات عمل الكبير هذا. وأنني أؤكد لكم من هذا المنبر أن منظمة العالم الإسلامي للتربية والعلوم والثقافة إيسوسكو تتعهد بأن تظل في حال تواصل منتظم مع القيادة والمسؤولين في جمهورية كازاخستان ومع أمانة هذا المؤتمر بشكل خاص لضمان إحكام الرؤية والإنفاذ مع الدول الأعضاء الموقرة. فشكراً لكازاخستان قيادة وحكومة وشعباً وأمانة للمؤتمر، وشكراً لكم أنتم ثلة المؤتمرين المخلصين، فالمنتظر منكم كبير وجاسر، لكنه يبقى حلماً مشروعاً وأملاً متبوعاً، وعليكم ختاماً من الله السلام.
Thank you, Excellency. We are grateful for your thoughtful remarks, warm words about Kazakhstan and its policy, and look forward to fruitful collaboration with your organization. Thank you. Distinguished participants and guests of the Congress, I would like to give the floor to the Federal Minister of Religious Affairs and Interfaith Harmony of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Sardar Muhammad Yusuf. Your Excellency, please, the floor is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wassalam ala rahmatil alameen. Honorable Chairman, respected leaders of world and traditional religions, esteemed colleagues, respected scholars, and honorable participants of this August gathering. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is indeed an honor and privilege to address the 8th Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religion here in Astana, the capital of the Republic of Kazakhstan. I wish to express my deep gratitude to the government of Kazakhstan, and in particular to the Honorable President, Chairman of Senate, and Head of the Secretariat of this Congress, for convening us under the most timely and profound theme, Dialogue of Religions, Synergy for the Future. This Congress has established itself as a beacon of hope, a forum of wisdom, and a unique symbol of our collective aspiration to cultivate peace, understanding, and harmony among the diverse people of the world. At this moment in history, when humanity is confronted with multifaceted crises, rising conflict, widening inequalities, moral disorientation, and environmental degradation, the need for dialogue among religions is greater than ever. Dialogue is not merely a diplomatic exercise, it is a sacred duty entrusted to us by our tradition. In Islam, the Quran declares in Surah An-Kabut, and do not argue with the people of the book except in a way that is best, unless it be with those of them who act unjustly and say, we believe in what has been revealed to us and revealed to you. Our God and your God is one, and to him we submit. This verse provides a divine framework for dialogue with wisdom, respect, and acknowledgement of shared spiritual roots. Similarly, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said, the most beloved to Allah are those who are most beneficial to his creation. Dialogue of religion, in its truest sense, is an engagement of hearts and minds. It is about building bridges of trust, recognizing our common humanity, and cultivating empathy across traditions. The diversity of our faith is not a weakness, but a divine blessing, as the Quran tells us, for very one of you we have appointed a law and a way. If Allah had willed, he could have made you and one community, but he willed otherwise in order to test you in what he has given you. So compete with one another in doing good deeds. Here the Quran does not erase difference, but elevates it into an opportunity to excel in goodness, to learn from another, and to cooperate in what benefits humanity at large. Respected participants, the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam offers a timeless model for interfaith harmony. The Charter of Medina, drafted under his leadership, stands as one of the earliest constitutional frameworks ensuring peaceful coexistence between Muslims, Jews, and other communities of the city. It granted them rights, duties, and mutual protection, establishing a civic order based on justice and equality. Similarly, when a Christian delegation from Najran visited the Prophet's mosque in Medina, he received them with respect, allowed them to pray in the mosque according to their own rights, and engaged them in dialogue with patience and courtesy. These examples demonstrate that Islam's vision of dialogue is not theoretical. It is deeply practical and historical grounded. In today's context, this synergy for the future must mean harnessing the moral capital of our religious and tradition to confront global challenges. Poverty, injustice, extremism, and climate change are not problems of one nation or one religion. They are shared crises that demand shared solutions. Our religions, when interpreted in their true spirit, emphasize stewardship for the earth, care for the vulnerable, and the pursuit of justice. The Quran commands, indeed, Allah commands justice, excellence, and giving to relatives, and forbids immorality, wrongdoing, and oppression. Surah Al-Nahl. This principle of justice and benevolence must underpin our inter-religious cooperation, ensuring that faith becomes a source of healing rather than division. Esteemed members, it is equally important to disown the misuse of religion for political or violent ends. Extremism, hatred, and corruption in the name of faith contradicts the very essence of all religious teachings. Islam in particular rejects compulsion in matters of belief. As the Quran states unequivocally, there shall be no compulsion in religion. Truth has become distinct from falsehood. We must unite our voices to condemn all forms of intolerance, discrimination, and violence, reaffirming that religion is a force for peace, not for conflict. Our shared moral voice has the power to counter ideologies of division and to inspire society towards reconciliation and cooperation. The youth of today look to us as religious and moral leaders for guidance. They live in an interconnected yet after polarized world, exposed to conflicting messages of division and unity. It is our responsibility to provide them with hope, wisdom, and direction. Education rooted in ethics, compassion, and the spirit of coexistence must be promoted across the globe. The Prophet Muhammad said, "The best of you are those who learned knowledge and teach it." Knowledge is the antidote to prejudice, and dialogue is the antidote to ignorance. By combining the two, we can nurture a generation that values diversity as strength and embraces dialogue as a pathway to peace. This Congress, by bringing together leaders of world and traditional religions in uniquely positioned to set a moral compass for humanity. From these deliberations must emerge a universal message that religions, far from being barriers or bridges, far from being instruments of conflict or fountains of reconciliation, far from fueling despair or reservoirs of hope. Our synergy for the future lies in realizing this truth collectively and applying it sincerely in our societies, institutions, and policies. Pakistan, with its deep spiritual heritage and its experience of diverse religious traditions, remains firmly committed to interfaith harmony and dialogue among civilizations. Our Constitution guarantees freedom of religion and belief, while our cultural history reflects centuries of peaceful coexistence among various communities. We stand ready to contribute to the global efforts for inter-religious understanding and to work with all partners in building a future that is inclusive, just, and peaceful. Respected members, in conclusion, let me emphasize that the road towards synergy is long, but it is paved with the divine guidance and the human goodwill. If we remain sincere, patient, and committed to the higher values of our tradition, justice, compassion, mercy, and wisdom, we can transform our diversity into unity and our dialogue into tangible cooperation. Let this Congress send forth a clear message to the world that when leaders of religions come together in dialogue, humanity gains a vision of hope, peace, and prosperity for generations to come. I thank you all for your attention, and I pray for the success of this Congress and for a future of harmony, peace, and well-being for all humankind. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister, for your meaningful remarks. We appreciate our continued cooperation with Pakistan in promoting interreligious and intercultural dialogue. Thank you. Distinguished guests of the Congress, now let me give the floor to our esteemed guest from Lebanon, His Holiness Aram I, Catholicos of the Armenian Church, Holy See of Cilicia. Your Holiness, please, the floor is yours.
I warmly welcome and highly appreciate the continuous efforts of the government of Kazakhstan to deepen and broaden interreligious dialogue and collaboration in support of initiatives and processes aimed at a peaceful world sustained by human rights and ethical values. Indeed, a credible and relevant interreligious dialogue enhances mutual understanding and respect. It builds mutual trust and acceptance. It questions all forms and expressions of exclusiveness, helps to enlarge the scope of our views, opens us to wider horizons, and lead us to uncharted territories. A serious interreligious dialogue implies intra-religious dialogue to avoid the emergence of contradictory trends within the same religion, as well as to ensure the integrity of its teachings. In my view, the interreligious dialogue should consider as top priorities the following 4 areas of engagement. First, religions are challenged to translate their reflection into action, aimed at harmonious and peaceful coexistence. Living together as integral part of one broader community of coherent diversities is of crucial importance in the world today. In fact, intolerance, fundamentalism, and extremism in multiple forms and expressions often assert their presence in modern societies. Religions must combat such trends and tendencies by promoting values of tolerance and peaceful cohabitation. Second, in a world marked by increasing polarizations, tensions, and conflicts, I consider the role of religion as one of bridge building, as this morning His Excellency the President reminded us. Humanity is at a dangerous crossroads. Global and regional agendas clash. Strategies oppose. Exclusive claims persist. Consensus gives way to military victory. Might imposes itself on right. Clouds of uncertainty and insecurity and fear gather on the horizon of humanity. Religions cannot remain silent and on standby. Building bridges of mutual understanding as a core ethical value is at the heart of all religions' teachings and vocation. Third, religions cannot make significant contribution in my judgment, conflict resolution, but they can in prevention of crises. Because in conflict, negotiations, interest count. In prevention, ethical values are employed. Without associating themselves with a given political agenda or ideological orientation, religions are urged to stand firm against all dangers that threaten the human life and dignity and cause injustice and violence. And finally, fourth, religions can play an important role in the sphere of ecological crisis, particularly in addressing issues related to climate change. Religion's approach to ecological issues should be ethical, namely within the framework of human stewardship and responsibility towards the planet, the only household of humanity. In conclusion, how can we take interreligious dialogue from the stage of intellectual interaction to issue-oriented action? How can interreligious dialogue promote a culture of peaceful coexistence in pluralistic societies in which living together in different parts of the world has become rather shaky? How can religions develop a global ethic of shared values and binding principles as a ground and platform of their common reflection and common action? These challenges need to be taken seriously and responsibly by interreligious dialogue and by all religions of the world. Thank you.
Your Holiness, thank you for your meaningful address. You have raised very important issues, and I'm sure your proposal, your ideas have greatly enriched our discussions. We deeply appreciate your participation in today's forum and your commitment to promoting peace and interreligious dialogue. Thank you, Your Holiness. Уважаемые участники съезда, следующее слово предоставляется исполнительному директору Ассоциации синтейских храмов Джинджа Хонча верховному религиозному руководителю синтоистского храма Фуджисан Камитаке, господину Асана Масаши. Господин Масаши, пожалуйста, вам слово.
はじめに宗教間、国家間、文明間のさまざまな課題について諸宗教が対話すべく世界伝統宗教者指導者会議を設立されましたヌルスルタン・ナザルバエフ初代カザフスタン大統領の功績をたたえますとともに、ここに第8回世界伝統宗教指導者会議を開催され、私どもをお招きいただきました現カザフスタン大統領のカシム・ジョマルト・トカエフ閣下に敬意を表し、心より感謝申し上げます。そして本日、この会場にお越しの世界各国の宗教指導者や国際機関の代表者の皆様の前で発言をする機会をいただきましたことを誠に光栄に存じます。私は日本の伝統的信仰である神道を代表してこの会場に参りました。神道は多種多様な神々が信仰されています。その歴史は古く、日本列島に人が住み始めた頃からすでに信仰されていたと言われています。神々は神社にお祭りされ、21世紀の今日においても、日本各地におよそ10万の神社があると言われています。私が宮司を務めている神社もその中の一つにあたります。私が奉仕する神社は富士山に鎮座し、1000年を超える長きにわたり、熱い信仰が寄せられてきました。こうした長い歴史は、私の奉仕する神社に限ったことではありません。古来、私たち日本人は米作りを中心とする農業や漁業、林業を営み、生活してきました。これらの産業は自然環境の影響を受けやすく、時に台風や大雨といった自然の猛威により人々は苦しんできました。こうしたことから自然への畏敬の念、雨の神や風の神、雷の神などに対する神道の信仰が芽生えました。また農業や漁業といった産業は人々の共同なくして成り立ちません。そのため各地の村々では自然の力や土地を守護する祖先を神として祀り、村の平和と繁栄を祈願し、同時に人々の調和を大切にしてきました。このような畏敬と感謝の念、そして調和を尊ぶ心が積み重ねられ、神社神道という信仰が形作られました。故に神道は日本の歴史や文化、日本人の伝統精神とも深く結びついているのです。神社本庁はそうした日本中の神社を包括する組織であり、伝統宗教という立場から日本の文化的・精神的伝統の保持と次世代への継承を主な目的としてさまざまな活動を行っています。さて、今日世界各地にて猛暑に豪雨災害、山火事が頻発し、異常気象が日常化しつつあります。私が日々おります富士山も例外ではありません。永久凍土の融解が進み、森林限界が上昇するなどの地球規模の気候変動に、日本人がその美しさをたたえ、神として大切にしてきた富士山がやがて姿を変えてしまうかもしれないとの 強い危機感を覚えております。また、目覚ましい技術革新によって人々の暮らしが快適になる一方、人工知能といった新たなる技術は私たちの伝統的な価値観に多大な影響を及ぼしています。人々は安易に正解を求めるようになり、目に見えないものの声を聞き、存在を感じるといった先人たちが大切にしてきた信仰を忘れ、ややもすれば人工知能を神として崇めかねない状況がすぐそこまで来ているように思われます。そして何より世界に格差や差別、貧困の問題など終わりの見えない課題が山積し、人々が手を携え解決の糸口を探さなければならないにもかかわらず、実際には分断と対立が深まってしまっています。このような中、宗教間の対話、未来への相乗効果をテーマとして、志を同じくする世界各国の宗教指導者、国際機関の代表者が相集い、共に同じ未来を目指そうとすることは、全世界に向けた誠に意義深い行動であろうと存じます。特に本年は世界大戦の終戦から80年という節目の年にあたります。去る8月15日には、ほぼすべての日本人が戦没者に慰霊の誠と平和への祈りを捧げました。幸いなことに日本は過去80年間、戦争を経験しておらず、私は日本が平和な国として発展を遂げる中で育ちました。しかしながら世界を見渡しますと、この80年間は必ずとしても平和と発展に満ちたものではありませんでした。各地で武力による紛争は後を絶たず、今この時にもかけがえのない命が奪われています。戦勝国であれ、敗戦国であれ、多くの命が失われたことに変わりはありません。悲惨な体験をしたにもかかわらず、人は争うことをやめませんでした。人はややもすると利己主義に走ってしまいます。困難な状況に陥れば陥るほど人心は乱れ、周囲が見えなくなり、他者を非難することで目の前の現実から目をそらそうとします。その結果、絶え間なく争いが続いてしまうのです。私たち宗教者の使命は、このような現状に調和の心を持って立ち向かうことにあるのではないでしょうか。神道の基本となっている日本神話は、神々が集まって協議した上で物事を決める場面が数多く登場します。そこには独裁的で独善的な意思決定の姿はありません。あくまでも対話を大切にし、全体にとって最善の方法を導き出そうとする様子が描かれています。今日の人類に求められているのは、このような神々の姿に倣い、人々の心の輪を念頭に置きつつ、自身の意見を主張するだけではなく、相手の主張にも耳を傾け、理解し、対話を重ね、共に最善となる方法を見出す努力をするという姿勢だと考えます。そして、この対話による相互理解を求める姿勢は、神道固有のものではありません。世界中のあらゆる宗教が持っているのです。他者の幸福を願わない宗教の存在を私は知りません。平和な暮らしを願う宗教があるからこそ、互いを尊重することができるのです。私たち宗教者に課せられた使命は、この大切な事実を改めて認識してもらえるよう努力することなのです。 信仰は人間の根底にあります。私たちは政治や経済の垣根を越え、あらゆる人々の心に訴えかけることができます。私たちは敬う神は違えども、同じく祈りを捧げる近しい隣人として、未来への希望を示す使命を担っているのです。そしてそれぞれの信仰、それぞれの伝統を代表してここに集まった皆様は、世界中の人々が平和的に共存し、繁栄していくための英知をお持ちです。対話を重ね、互いの英知を深く学び合い、共有することが未来への相乗効果を生み出すでしょう。人間一人の力は一粒の雫のようで、それらが合わされば、雫のようでたった一人の渇きを癒すこともできません。小川となれば幾筋もの川の流れが大海原を作り出します。各人が確固たる信念を持って臨めば、やがては大きなうねりとなって世界の明るい未来を切り開く力となると信じております。本日ここで皆様と共に心一つに平和のために祈りを捧げました。このことこそが未来へつながる新たな一歩であると信じております。最後になりましたが、カザフスタン共和国カシム・ジョマルト・トカエフ大統領閣下におかれましては、このような機会を継承され、さらに発展へと導かれる強い信念に対し、改めて御礼を申し上げます。そして本日お集まりの皆様のご健勝とご活躍をお祈り申し上げ、日本の伝統宗教である神道を代表しての提言を終わらせていただきます。ありがとうございました。
Благодарим вас, уважаемый господин Мисаши, за содержательное выступление. Мы признательны ассоциации Джинджа Хонче за постоянное активное участие в нашем форуме. Надеемся на дальнейшее плодотворное сотрудничество с вашей уважаемой организацией. Спасибо. Your Excellencies, now I would like to give the floor to the member of the quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Elder Patrick Kieran. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Dear friends, distinguished leaders and honored clergy, it's a privilege to address you. It's a great pleasure to meet once again with so many of you from around the world. As a child, I moved from my native England to a faraway country with a very different culture, climate, and religious landscape. For a small boy, this was at first shocking, but very quickly became a source of marvel and wonder. Children adapt swiftly and observe without prejudice. In no time, I came to love my new home and the people, the land, the food, and the culture. I was fortunate in my youth to arrive without preconceived ideas. I later realized that I had become sensitive to what was sacred to friends in our host nation. The way families we knew treated their religious rites and practices with quiet reverence became a beautiful example to me. Their holy places had sacred status for them, and this was passed on to me through their example of devotion. It became a tender privilege to enter their holy sites. I came to understand that a sacred space didn't need to be my sacred space to foster a sense of the sacred in me. I applaud this Congress's decision to hold yesterday the special session on safeguarding religious sites, and I applaud the official opening of the Park of Peace and Reconciliation tomorrow morning. That park will serve as a beautiful space we can all share, a fitting emblem of this gathering and a beacon to all those who will follow. Across faith traditions, sacred spaces, whether soaring cathedrals, quiet temples, majestic mosques, serene synagogues, or humble meeting places, hold deep meaning. These houses of worship stand in nearly every land, offering refuge and inspiration for the faithful. These sacred spaces rise like sturdy beacons of faith and hope. They offer sanctuaries where we pray, sing, meditate, and find strength in the presence of God and one another. For my faith, temples are the most sacred place on earth, referred to by us as the house of the Lord. In the temple, we seek to learn more about God and draw closer to him. Our most recognizable temple, located in Salt Lake City, originally built in the mid-1800s, is now undergoing a major renovation. This complex work includes strengthening the temple's foundation to be seismically secure. It is both a preservation of the past and a commitment to the future. When it is completed, we will welcome our friends from around the world to come and celebrate this restoration and renewal with us. This afternoon, I invite each of you to come as my personal guest to experience this monument to our love of God, and this will take place between April and October of 2027. We'd be honored to have you join us in this special celebration of our faith. We all know what a difference it makes when we approach our own personal interactions with the same kind of care we are taking with our historic temple. I'm grateful for our shared striving beyond the walls of temples, churches, synagogues, and mosques to treat the space between us with the same sense of reverence and purpose. We can give as much sacred regard to one another as we do to the beauty of our sanctuaries. As we do, we build sacred spaces within our relationships, places of mutual respect, compassion, and trust. The spaces between us become sacred when we take the time to listen, when we replace judgment with compassion, and when we remember that what unites us is far greater than what might divide us. Just as holy edifices rise one stone at a time, so too are peace and understanding built moment by moment and encounter by encounter. As leaders of faiths, we strive to work across borders with an alternative to spiritual emptiness. I'm deeply grateful for the spirit of consecrated effort that brings us together with enduring respect wherever we are from. This allows us to build connections that are both deep and strong, grounded in genuine understanding and sincere awareness of another's backgrounds, experiences, and needs. In this work, we honor the divine call to foster peace, mutual respect, and lasting fellowship for the whole human family. Creating sacred connections together opens extraordinary potential. In fact, it seems essential to the theme of this year's Congress, finding synergy for the future through religiously grounded dialogue and action. We have all witnessed working together and hand in hand with local communities to create safe havens for women and children and places of refuge from war. We've seen former adversaries setting aside differences to deliver food, medicine, and shelter in disaster-struck regions. Often leading these efforts are faith-based groups, trusted allies with deep roots in the communities they serve, helping ensure that relief reaches those who need it most. This is what is happening as we move from conversation to action and build trusting connections by serving each other and serving together. Our shared opportunity is to turn strangers into neighbors and neighbors into friends. Winston Churchill once observed, "We shape our buildings, and afterwards our buildings shape us." Well, he spoke of physical structures, but the same is true of building peace and human connection. The world we hope to live in depends on the world we are willing to build together. Dear friends, thank you for your efforts. As we continue to build and protect more than temples, synagogues, mosques, and churches, we can build and protect human trust and friendship. We will lay the foundation stones of compassionate dialogue, listening, and understanding. We can repair what is broken, strengthen what is fragile, and frame a future where peace can replace fear. We can draw closer and forge connections as thoughtfully and hopefully as we build and preserve physical sanctuaries. In doing so, we will best realize the kind of world those buildings represent, a place of heaven, we hope, on earth. Thank you for being such builders.
Thank you, Elder Kieran, for your meaningful remarks and ideas you shared with us, which there is no doubt have enriched our discussions and our conversation at this Congress. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Excellencies, now let me give the floor to Dr. Francis Kuria Kagema, the Secretary General of Religions for Peace International and Secretary General of the African Council of Religious Leaders. Please, Dr. Kuria, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Your Excellencies, Your Eminences, esteemed religious leaders, esteemed members of government, delegates to this Congress, it is my truest pleasure to join you today and bring you greetings of peace on behalf of the global movement of Religions for Peace. It is a profound honor to address this Congress, and I wish to begin by offering my heartfelt gratitude to the government of Kazakhstan and the International Center for Interfaith and Intercivilizational Dialogue for their gracious hospitality and for convening us in this beautiful city of Astana. For more than 2 decades, this World Congress has stood as a beacon of dialogue and cooperation, reminding our world that peace is possible when we choose to work together. Since its inaugural gathering in 2003, this Congress has grown into a truly global platform for interfaith dialogue, engaging leaders of diverse traditions in common reflection on the present challenges of our age. Religions for Peace has long been honored to walk alongside you in this journey. My predecessors, Dr. William Vendley and Professor Asa Karam, each participated in this Congress, bearing witness to its unique contribution to the architecture of global peace. Today, I stand humbly in their footsteps, carrying forward our movement's enduring commitment to collaboration among religions in service of humanity and the earth. The theme of the 8th Congress, Dialogue of Religions, Synergy of the Future, is both timely and visionary. The word synergy comes from the Greek synagos, meaning to work together. At its heart, it reminds us that none of us, no religion, no nation, no community, can meet the immense challenges of our time alone. The crises of war and displacement, ecological destruction, inequality, and polarization demand not only dialogue, but a new depth of cooperation, what we might call spiritual synergy. History teaches us that such energy is possible. We recall the courage of St. Francis of Assisi, who crossed enemy lines in 2019 to meet Sultan al-Malik al-Kamil with respect and fraternity. We remember the first Religions for Peace World Assembly in 1970, where leaders from every major faith came together in Kyoto to lay a foundation of multi-religious cooperation. And we look to this Congress where for 2 decades, leaders have modeled the possibility of dialogue that transcend difference and nurtures peace. These examples remind us that when religious leaders unite, they can bend the arc of history towards reconciliation and hope. Today, we are called to deepen this legacy. Today, as we are called to deepen this legacy, we bring to you the new paradigm of religions for peace, a paradigm of shared sacred flourishing, launched by Religions for Peace in Istanbul earlier this year and already embraced in Africa and Latin America. This initiative seeks to recover and renew a shared sacred worldview, one that affirms the intrinsic interconnectedness of all life. It tells us that our flourishing as individuals is inseparably linked to the flourishing of our neighbors, of our societies, and of the earth itself. It is not an abstract idea. It is rooted in the lived experiences of our faith traditions, which teach us, each in our own way, that to love the sacred is to love the community of being that the sacred sustains. Shared sacred flourishing is in many ways the inner dimension of synergy. It grounds our dialogue in the recognition that we are not isolated beings pursuing individual gain, but relational beings whose dignity and well-being is bound to one another. It challenges the reductionist worldview that sees the universe as meaningless and life as disposable, and instead invites us to embrace mercy, love, compassion, and solidarity as grounded in the divine, as the very basis of human and ecological survival. Kazakhstan, with its rich history as a crossroads of cultures and faiths, offers us a powerful example of such synergy. Just as the Silk Road once connected East and West, so this land continues to connect the spiritual traditions of the world. The commemoration of Oraza Eid and Orthodox Easter, celebrated here with equal reverence, stands as a living testament to the harmony that is possible among diverse traditions. We at Religions for Peace are honored to have recently deepened our partnership with the Nazarbayev Center for Development and Interfaith and Intercivilizational Dialogue, a collaboration that underscored our shared commitment to nurturing dialogue, education, and cooperation in this pivotal region. Excellencies, friends, dialogue is not an end in itself. Dialogue must give birth to action. Synergy is realized when our words become deeds, when our prayers for peace become movements of justice, when our reverence for the earth becomes ecological responsibility. This is why we must continue to forge partnerships across traditions, across sectors, and across generations that is transformed to action. The presence of the Youth Forum alongside this Congress is a hopeful sign, reminding us that young people are not only the future, but already the living messengers of peace and unity. Let me conclude with the words of one of my colleagues, His Eminence Cardinal Charles Bohr, co-president of Religions for Peace and Archbishop of Yangon in Myanmar. Let us learn from creation's timeless symphony that harmony is not found in sameness, but in unity. May this Congress be such a symphony, like we had a very beautiful symphony yesterday evening, where the diverse notes of our traditions converge in harmony that strengthens human dignity, heals our wounded earth, and charts a path of flourishing for generations to come. On behalf of Religions for Peace, I thank you for your leadership, your courage, and your unwavering commitment to dialogue, the people of Kazakhstan. May our work together in this Congress ignite the synergy that our world so desperately needs. Peace be upon you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kuria, for your insightful presentation and for your kind words about Kazakhstan and for your continued commitment to interreligious dialogue and cooperation. Dear friends, our next speaker is the Secretary General of the Baha'i International Community, Dr. David Rutstein. Dr. Rutstein, please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Esteemed and beloved religious leaders, all the Kazakhstan government representatives, and all the distinguished speakers, guests, brothers and sisters, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to address you here today in this truly unique forum. Before I begin, I too want to formally thank the Kazakhstan government for both its enduring commitment to interreligious dialogue and its far-reaching vision of the role religion can play in creating a truly unified world. This Congress is a tangible manifestation of Kazakhstan's commitment and vision. I hope other countries will be similarly inspired to act in this regard. Today, I offer a few questions and thoughts from the Baha'i international community on a theme that resonates deeply with the teachings of the Baha'i faith: dialogue of religions, synergy for the future. But what does dialogue of religions mean? And in a world increasingly interconnected yet often divided by misunderstanding, how can this be put into practice for maximum effect? I humbly offer a Baha'i perspective which values a hopeful and practical approach to religious dialogue, one rooted in the principle of consultation. Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, proclaimed that, quote, "The well-being of mankind, its peace and security are unattainable unless and until its unity is firmly established," end quote. This unity is not uniformity. It is a rich tapestry woven from diverse beliefs, cultures, and perspectives. And it is through consultation, a sacred and structured form of dialogue, that this unity can be achieved. He further stated, quote, "For everything there is and will continue to be a station of perfection and maturity. The maturity of the gift of understanding is made manifest through consultation," end quote. Let's explore 5 characteristics of this type of consultation, which can serve as one model for interfaith dialogue. First is earnestly ascertaining the facts. Consultation begins with a sincere search for truth. It is not a debate, nor a contest of ideas, but a collective investigation. Participants strive to understand the reality of a situation, setting aside personal biases and assumptions. In religious dialogue, this means approaching each tradition with humility and a genuine desire to learn, not to convince, but to comprehend. Second is respect for all participants and their views. Every soul has a unique perspective shaped by experience and insight. Consultation requires that we honor each voice, recognizing that truth often emerges from the interplay of diverse ideas. But respect is not passive. It is active listening, thoughtful engagement, and the affirmation of each person's dignity. The Baha'i writings state that, quote, "The shining spark of truth cometh forth only after the clash of differing opinions," end quote. The result is often an insight that is new to all of those engaged. Third is listening carefully to all ideas. Listening is a spiritual act. It demands patience, openness, and empathy. In religious dialogue, careful listening allows us to hear not only the words, but the spirit behind them. It builds bridges of understanding and reveals common values: justice, compassion, and love, values that unite all faiths. Fourth is detachment from one's own ideas. Baha'i consultation teaches that once an idea is offered, it no longer belongs to the individual. It belongs to the group. This requires that the individual be detached from the contribution. This detachment fosters collaboration rather than competition. In interfaith dialogue, it means being willing to let go of preconceived notions and allowing collective wisdom to guide the conversation as it emerges. And fifth is speaking without offense and listening without taking offense. This principle is vital. Consultation must be conducted in a spirit of love and courtesy. Words should be chosen with care, avoiding harshness or superiority. Likewise, listeners must cultivate resilience and grace, understanding that disagreement is not disrespect. This creates a safe space where truth can flourish. In delving into the subject at hand, I asked myself, despite how unique and important this Congress is, can meaningful progress towards unity be achieved and a productive future be assured through our gathering here for 2 days every 3 years? I think the answer is yes, if we adopt a hopeful and practical approach to religious dialogue, one rooted in the principle of consultation. Imagine a world where religious communities at local, national, regional, and international levels engage in ongoing respective dialogue, where facts are objectively determined, where differences are not feared but explored with curiosity and reverence. In such a future, religious synergy would not be a mere ideal. It would be a living reality. Faith traditions would work together to uplift humanity, guided by shared spiritual principles and a unified vision. The walls of religious, ethnic, and racial prejudices would crumble, replaced by networks of cooperation and mutual support. As a result of the unity such engagement will foster, these communities will collaborate and make meaningful progress in addressing global challenges of immense importance: poverty, climate change, education, and peace building. This is not a utopian dream. It is a future within reach if the manner in which we interact mirrors forth the principles that lie at the heart of all the world's religions, principles of respect, harmony, and love. Let us not be swayed by the obsolete practices of the past or the political machinations of the present. In the words of Abdul Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah and a champion of interfaith harmony, quote, "If religion becomes a cause of disunity, it is better to be without it," end quote. Let us, as religious leaders, implement a higher standard. Let us not be dissuaded by the din and chaos sweeping the planet, nor the ever-increasing material distractions that consume societies. Let us ensure that religion becomes an enduring source of unity through consultation, respect, and genuine love. If so, it can and will transform the world. Thank you.
Dr. Rothstein, thank you for your meaningful remarks and ideas and for your active cooperation with the Secretariat of the Congress. Thank you, Your Excellency. Құрметті съезге қатысушылар, келесі сөз Түркия дін істері жөніндегі басқарма төрағасының орынбасары Хадир Динчке беріледі.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Vessalatu vesselamu ala Rasulina Muhammed ve ala alihi ve ashabihi ecmain. Sayın Başkan, değerli dini liderler, hanımefendiler, beyefendiler, değerli basın mensupları, Astana'da dünya ve geleneksel dinler liderleri 8. Kongresi öncesinde gerçekleştirilen bu özel oturuma davetinizden duyduğum memnuniyeti dile getirerek hepinizi en kalbi duygularla selamlıyorum. Hitabıma geçmeden önce Diyanet İşleri Başkanımız Profesör Doktor Sayın Ali Erbaş'ın selamı ile kongrenin en iyi şekilde geçmesi yönündeki iyi dileklerini sizlerle paylaşmak istiyorum. Bugün burada kutsal mekanların korunması gibi hayati bir konuda bir araya gelmiş olmaktan büyük bir onur duyuyorum. Dini mekanlar sadece taş, toprak ve betondan ibaret değildir. Dini mekanlar inançların ruh bulduğu, duaların göğe yükseldiği, insanların maneviyatla buluştuğu mukaddes alanlardır. Caminin, kilisenin, sinagogun, tapınağın olduğu yerde sadece bir inanç değil, insan onuru, tarih, kültür ve medeniyet de vardır. Bu açıdan tüm dini mekanlar dokunulmaz ve saygındır. Kutsala dair her türlü şiddet ve saldırı olayları hangi dinin kutsalına yapılırsa yapılsın, etkileri bakımından çok geniş kitleleri harekete geçirebilmekte ve farklı dine inanan insanların birlikte yaşama duygusuna zarar vermektedir. Bu menfur hadiseler insanların geçmişle olan bağlarını koparmakta, kutsalla olan ilişkilerini zedelemekte, toplumsal hafızanın silinmesine ve kültürel mirasın ortadan kalkmasına neden olmaktadır. Bugün dünyanın pek çok yerinde mukaddes alanlar saldırıya uğramakta, tahrip edilmekte, hatta siyasi veya ideolojik amaçlar uğruna yok sayılmaktadır. Ne yazık ki bu saldırılar sadece binalara değil, aynı zamanda inançlara, kimliklere ve toplumsal barışa yöneliktir. Ayrıca saldırıların sadece kutsal mekanlara yönelik olmadığı, kutsal sembollere, kitaplara ve kutsal kişilere de yönelik olduğunu üzülerek görmekteyiz. Değerli katılımcılar, bu çerçevede dini mekanların korunması sadece bir güvenlik meselesi değil, aynı zamanda bir vicdan, bir adalet ve bir medeniyet meselesidir. Hep birlikte bu bilinçle hareket etmeli, inançları, inanç sahiplerini ve inanç merkezlerini her türlü şiddetten, nefretten ve siyasallaşmadan uzak tutmalıyız. Yukarıda zikredilen açılardan mesele analiz edildiğinde dini mekanların dokunulmazlığının uluslararası hukukla daha net bir şekilde güvence altına alınmasının zorunluluğu ortaya çıkmaktadır. Değerli katılımcılar, burada vurgulamak istediğim çok önemli bir husus daha var. Saldırganın dini kimliğinden ötürü bir dine mensup insanların tümünün sorumlu tutularak başka bir şiddet olayına kapı açılması ya da diğer din mensuplarının toptan suçlu ilan edilmesi de kabul edilemez. Dini müsamaha kültürü, eğitim sistemleri aracılığıyla tüm topluma kazandırılmalı, inanç temelli nefret söylemlerine ve eylemlerine karşı sıfır tolerans ilkesi benimsenmesi hepimizin ortak gayesi olmalıdır. Meseleye İslam dini açısından baktığımızda, Müslümanların dışındaki inanç mensuplarının mabetlerinin de dokunulmaz olduğunu görürüz. İslam, insanın dinini, canını, aklını, neslini ve malını koruma altına alan bir dindir. İnancı, ırkı, rengi ne olursa olsun bu 5 esasa zarar vermek İslam'da haramdır, günahtır. Türkiye Cumhuriyeti Diyanet İşleri Başkanlığı olarak yeryüzünde inanç özgürlüğünün ve dini mekanların dokunulmazlığının savunulmasını temel bir insan hakkı olarak görmekteyiz. Biz Mescid-i Aksa'ya yönelen saldırılara nasıl karşı çıkıyorsak, Sri Lanka'daki bir kiliseye yapılan saldırıyı da, Fransa'daki bir sinagoga yönelik nefret eylemini de aynı kararlılıkla kınıyoruz. Türkiye, yüzyıllar boyunca farklı din ve kültürlerin bir arada barış içinde yaşadığı bir coğrafya olmuştur. Bugün de devletimiz azınlık cemaatlerinin ibadethanelerine yönelik desteğini artırmakta, restorasyon ve koruma projelerini sürdürmektedir. İstanbul'da bir cami ile kilisenin ya da sinagogun yan yana yükselmesi, bu toprakların köklü hoşgörü geleneğinin bir yansımasıdır. Biz bu mirası korumaya ve yaşatmaya kararlıyız. Sözlerimin sonuna gelirken, bugün Gazze'de yaşananlara özellikle dikkatinizi çekmek istiyorum. Kadın, çocuk, yaşlı demeden 65 binin masum insanın katledildiği, insanların yurdundan, yuvasından sürüldüğü bir ortamda tüm inançlar ve dünya barışı zarar görmekte, insanlık ağır bir imtihandan geçmektedir. Yüzyıllarca bir arada yaşayan insanları ve mabetleri yok eden bu saldırgan tavır, bu soykırımcı, Siyonist anlayış, inanç hürriyetini ve inanç mensuplarının barışını zedelemektedir. Yüzlerce caminin yanında Hristiyanlara ait önemli eserler de bu yok edici zihniyetten nasibini almaktadır. Bu vesileyle şahsım, ülkem ve kurumum adına Gazze'ye yapılan saldırıları en şiddetli bir şekilde kınıyor, bu vahşeti işleyenleri lanetliyorum. Dünyada hareketlenen insanlık vicdanının daha da güçlenerek bu elim vahşetin son bulmasını diliyorum. Unutmayalım ki bir ibadethaneye dokunmak, bir topluluğun kalbine, can damarına dokunmaktır. Ve o kalp kırıldığında insanlık da kırılır. Gerçekleştirilen kongrenin dini mekanların korunması konusunda uluslararası işbirliğini güçlendirmesini temenni ediyor. Başta organizatörler olmak üzere kongrenin gerçekleşmesinde emeği geçen herkese teşekkürlerimi sunuyorum.
Жоғары мәртебелі, мәнді сөздеріңізге рахмет айтамыз. Құрметті съезге қатысушылар, ендігі сөз Индонезияның ғұламалар кеңесі төрағасының орынбасары Анвар Аббасқа беріледі.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Brother and sister, first of all, I apologize because for me, as an individual, that the main enemy of us is not terrorism and radicalism. Because both are reaction, not action. They react to injustice and poverty, and extreme poverty, and sharp socio-economic inequality. This injustice and economic gap has fueled social conflict among the lower and middle classes. Certain groups we see have tried to exploit this economic gap by using religious sentiment to attack their opponent and their enemies. In other words, they has been used religion as fuel to mobilize groups to attack others, leading to religious conflict and riots that are difficult to overcome because they are linked to the belief and religious fanatism. If we cannot manage it well, it can threaten the existence of a society and a nation. The question, do we want this conflict to continue? Of course not. For that, we need to have dialogue of religions to find the root of the problem and offer practical solution. Therefore, religious leaders must recognize that economic inequality is a dominant factor and the root cause of ethnic, religious, and international conflict around the world. To address this, religious leaders at local, national, regional, and global level must make serious effort to overcome economic disparities. Religious leaders should appeal to the government to create policies that focus on equitable distribution and prioritize the large number of poor people. In addition, religious leaders need to engage in dialogue and work with the business world. We hope that they will pay attention to the poor to erase their poverty. Paying attention to the poor from the religious perspective, especially in Islam, is an extremely beneficial action. It is not from the humanitarian value only, but also has a transcendental value because it is a form of worship to God. The humanitarian action we do in helping others will not only help the poor overcome their difficulties, but will also improve their well-being and purchasing power. This condition economically will be response by the businessman to increase supply, which in turn will raise their income and their profit. It means that implementing religious command to help the poor creates a mutually beneficial symbiotic relationship that can bring the profit for both parties and also to the nation and the state. So, from this point of view, if we want to create peace in the world or in our country, religious leaders must sit together with the government. And religious leaders must sit together with the businessmen to discuss the problem faced by the people, especially in matters relating to injustice and poverty. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your thoughtful comments. We appreciate cooperation with you, and we hope to continue our cooperation in order to promote interreligious and intercultural dialogue. Thank you. Dear participants and guests of the forum, now it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Farhan Ahmad Nizami, Director of the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies. Please, Dr. Nizami, the floor is yours.
Thank you. At the outset, Excellency, let me join the colleagues around the table in thanking His Excellency the President and yourself for organizing this forum and for the care and continuity that you have ensured with this very important initiative. The need for such a forum is obvious, and the issues that one can raise are many. But I would like to concentrate only on some foundational principles, which perhaps might have bearing on many of the specific issues that we are all faced with. Those who believe in and value their faith should distinguish religious conviction as a means of promoting tolerance and peace. This, I think, would be a non-controversial statement here. But it is important to emphasize that interfaith relationship is just an important symbol, but an important one nevertheless, because it is an alternative to conflict. But it cannot function merely as a symbol. It should address substantive issues of concern to the participants. Respect for life, property, honor. The content and delivery of religious education, awareness of different traditions of belief and worship, ensuring that public services, schools, hospitals, etc., are culturally aware and proactive in accommodating the needs of different religious groups. In short, they should try to reflect upon and improve the day-to-day functioning of a society that has accepted the label plural. They should try to counter the effects of religious or racial discrimination, of injustice and inequality, and correct unfairness and inaccuracies, be it in media reporting or in any other walk of life. And that would ensure that it maintains confidence between communities. The product of interfaith activism is tolerance. Now, we all know that recent and ongoing events make it imperative, indeed urgent, that we understand what the resources of and for tolerance are. It must be of and for, because tolerance is both the means and the end. The usual metaphor, as has been used, is building bridges. The bridge opens two sides to each other. Tolerance is a mutual offer of peaceful, fruitful coexistence, not assimilation, but an enlarged and enriched neighborhood. Now, if the tolerance we all desire and value is to withstand crises and prevent such situations from arising, its foundations need to be secured in our religious convictions. To say it more directly, interfaith relationship cannot be effective unless it is sustained, and it cannot be sustained unless it is located and grounded in fullness of faith with the texts and authorities of our respective traditions. It must set out from the recognition that there are substantive differences, and that it is right and proper that it is so. With the recognition that our differences are right and proper goes the imperative of civility, not war, the acknowledgement that it is for everyone to discover and define what is true or essential to their own faith. Now the Quran says, "Lakum dinukum waliya din," to you your way of life, to me my way of life. This command to let be is uttered as a prelude to turn, not as a prelude to turning away from each other. On the contrary, it is uttered so as to establish the conditions for being able to turn to each other in a steady and reliable peacefulness and neighborliness. The assumption of the Quranic command to let be is that your God and my God are one. Only in the way of life surrounding worship and remembrance of God do we differ. We let be the differences, lest in the determination to eliminate them, we divert ourselves or others from worship and remembrance of God. The command to let be is a command to let worship and remembrance thrive in a fearless belonging. Now, the Quran affirms above all else that God is one. It also affirms that the prophets were many and that guidance was sent to all. Nobody inherits salvation, nor achieve it merely by self-proclamation, nor do any one people have a monopoly of any or all virtue. This did not and does not lead to relativism or agnosticism about religion. It did tend to encourage a sort of cultural agnosticism which enabled Islamic civilization in the periods when it was self-confident, inclusive, and assimilative. It would not be appropriate for me to elaborate on the resources that enable inclusiveness within the non-Muslim traditions. But within the Islamic tradition, besides the emphasis on the oneness of God and the general affirmations that we are all descended from the same parents and that all people have been sent guidance, there are specific affirmations about the people of the book. In here and now, we should instead therefore concern ourselves with recognizing that what we have in common and competing in good works. What then in our present world would prevent people of faith, Muslims in particular, for instance, from within the tradition I can talk, or indeed even non-Muslims, from entering into worthwhile interfaith relationships? At bottom, it comes back again and again to the problem of belonging fearfully and not fearlessly, to what we are. What we can do about this. One of the things we can do, or try to do, is to interrogate ourselves more rigorously and honestly about our disposition to be tolerant of each other. I am hopeful we can work for the revival of a higher tolerance, which is based upon religious conviction and not the mere universalist elements of our religious traditions. This tolerance is not based upon rights of man doctrine, or indeed international resolutions. It does not stop at legal and political neutrality or indifference. It is very distinctively a religious virtue. The notion that I can and should be content with the otherness of the other cannot be sustained in practice unless one acknowledges the supremacy of God, who is the creator and the Lord and the carer, the Rabb of Christians and other believers and non-believers, of Muslims, everyone. In matters of religion, one cannot be tolerant unless one has understood that faith is ultimately a gift between God and the individual person. As the Quran reiterates, every soul carries only its own load. Tolerance is therefore not the readiness to leave every soul to its own light. Rather, it is the striving to affirm that every soul has its light apportioned to it by God's care and compassion and received by it according to its disposition. We should take specific practical measures which enhance the sense of security, life, liberty, and honor of everyone, whatever and wherever they may be. Such measures must indeed be specific if they are to be practicable, specific to local conditions and contexts. The prospect of interfaith relationship are conditioned by the fact that we belong to our respective faith communities. To the extent that we belong fearfully, we need to protect ourselves against each other by assemblage of legal constraints that preserve rights and duties of non-interference, which I would call a lesser tolerance. To the extent that we believe as well as belong, and given that what we believe, we can aim at a higher tolerance, which accepts the different light of God has granted to each one of us. We can engage from this position with each other in a process of sustained dialogue and cooperation from which we all can benefit. Neither Islam nor any of the major religions is experienced from within as deficient. Each is fully resourced to cope with the contingencies of life in this world, including the contingency that other people do not believe what we believe. Nevertheless, to each tradition over time, we have accrued doctrinal and cultural habits, which often lie like a thick crust over the essentials of belief and give belonging priority over belief. Among the lesser possibilities of interfaith dialogue are a joint commitment to achieving a social ethos which diminishes fear and therefore makes contact and neighborliness possible and agreeable. But there are many interconnected causes which interfaith activists should pursue. The battle against the expulsion of religious authority from the public domain and its growing irrelevance in the domain of individual choices and lifestyles. The battle against consumerism, which recognizes no human dignity except what is measured in terms of military might or buying power. The battle against the ever-widening chasm within and across national boundaries between the rich and poor. Patterns of economic investment which are indifferent to social environmental consequences, and therefore, above all, the tyranny and injustices that they breed. Common to all these battles is not a battle against, but a battle for the recovery of habits of worship and religious reflection, humanity, justice, equality, for the self-discipline which enables self-transcendence. Interfaith activists should be at the forefront of programs that that strive for the improvement of health and education, for the elevation of poverty, for policies of conservation and environmental protection, and so forth. Ultimately, that quality of commitment is dependent upon the quality of human resources carrying it. And it is therefore in the domain of education, which builds human resources, that interfaith work can be most effective. Interfaith activism is therefore a way of acknowledging that one God, who is the God of all, gives his blessings and gifts to these as well as to those, and that we put ourselves at risk of ingratitude if we fail to acknowledge the virtues and achievements of others with the same willing respect that we wish them to acknowledge ours. The mental and moral discipline of interfaith relationship is more important than international conventions. It stops believers from bringing to the zone of the sacrosanct the narrow issues of custom and practice that pertain not to belief as such, but to local identities, nationalisms, and local manners. It is not an easy discipline. If practiced properly and sustained, its fruit is tolerance and peaceful coexistence with others of the same and other faiths. But if interfaith discipline is refused or practiced in a hypocritical way, the consequences are either massive indifference to any needs or concerns that fall outside one's own lifestyle, or narrow, aggressive communalisms which project identity through hatred and conflict. Thank you.
Dr. Nizami, thank you for your insightful presentation, which have enriched our discussions and our vision of interreligious dialogue in the modern world. We deeply appreciate your valuable contributions to the Congress and your collaboration with the Secretariat. Thank you. Уважаемые участники и гости съезда, следующее слово предоставляется члену Комитета по международным отношениям ордена Чогье господину Чону Бому. Пожалуйста.
나무불, 나무법, 나무승. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. On behalf of the Korean religious community, I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations on the 8th Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religions, which is being held in Kazakhstan. For the past 2 decades, the Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religions has established itself as a forum that promotes the interfaith dialogue, serving as a channel for religious leaders to express their view on diverse issues that go beyond the national borders. This year, the dialogue continues under the theme of Dialogue of Religions, Synergy for the Future. Today's world's humanitarian crisis, environmental destruction, and the climate crisis are not only causing global suffering, but also threatening the very survival of future generations. Concern about hatred, violence, and the destruction of human dignity in the digital environment, fueled by AI advancement, continue to grow. The Buddha taught that this exists because that exists, meaning all phenomena arise interdependently through cause and conditions. When greed is excessive, suffering deepens. When attachment is strong, anguish grows. No matter how advanced the scientific and material civilization becomes, it cannot eliminate the suffering from the human heart. When the mind awakening to peace, one naturally knows what must be done. Sun meditation, which awakens each individual's mind and allow them to create their own peace, is the direct path to resolving this problem of modern society. This is also why the United Nations officially declared December 21st as World Meditation Day, raising awareness about meditation and its benefit and affirming everyone's right to the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. Embracing the UN intent in establishing the World Meditation Day, Korean Buddhism hosted the International Sun Meditation Summit in 2024, which took place at Seoul's Gwanghwamun Square. This year, it held a Sun Meditation Festival in April, which will be followed by an international conference in October. Through Sun meditation, Korean Buddhism continues its effort to help each person cultivate the power to govern their own mind and aim to extend the reach of the humanity's spiritual civilizations, striving to achieve not only inner peace, but also global peace. With one breath in, I contemplate the connections that bind us together. With one breath held, I reflect on the cause and effect of my actions. With one breath out, I dwell in the stillness that transcends the duality of suffering and joy. Deeply recognizing the interconnectedness of all life and nature, I pray for a world where violence, war, discrimination, and hatred vanish and are replaced by understanding, respect, compassion, and wisdom. Once again, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the religious leaders who have taken time out of their busy schedules to gather here for peace and the happiness of people worldwide. Kazakhstan's demonstration of inclusivity and dedication set an example for interfaith dialogue. As we see, Astana establishing itself as a symbol of peace and harmony. We all discover new hope. I applaud the government of Kazakhstan and the conference organizer for their effort in making this gathering possible. May the right of freedom, peace, harmony, order, wisdom, and compassion shine upon all people suffering in the world. September 2025, Most Venerable Jinnu, President of the Jogye Order of Korean Buddhism, Chair of the Association of Korean Buddhist Order, Chair of the Korean Council of Religious Leaders, led by Venerable Jeongbom on behalf of Most Venerable Jino. Thanks. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for thoughtful remarks, and we look forward to further fruitful cooperation with your organization. Thank you. Уважаемые участники съезда, у нас осталось одно выступление, после которого мы завершим пленарное заседание. Я хочу предоставить слово епископу Евангелическо-лютеранской церкви Финляндии господину Тапио Юхани Луома. Господин Луома, пожалуйста.
Dear participants, dear friends, I gladly join to all the thanks that have been given today to the organizers of this Congress. It has been impressive and privileged to be here part of it. Just one thing I would like to raise at the end of our session. So many times we have discussed or taken into account the fact that peace building also as an interfaith activity is something very difficult. We know it so well that when we look, for example, Israel and Gaza, as well as Ukraine, and in many other places around the world, we see that peace building and reconciliation is very, very difficult. I recall one bishop, I can't remember now his name, but he was distinguished because he was part of a reconciliation process in a conflict situation, and he told us that whoever wants to work in the field of peace and reconciliation must be prepared to get her or his hands dirty, so that there is lots of things to do. My point is that we as religious leaders, we are able to look to the same direction. It is quite easy, it seems to me, to find common ground on which to proceed. My question is, how do we relate all this to our own religious communities? How do we involve them with us in these peace-building processes? So my question is that what kind of difficulties do we face in our own religious communities while we try to work for peace? I discern 3 points. First of all is the question of religion and nationalism. All our religions, we have a national context. And of course, we need to have responsibility for those people who are members in our communities. And of course, in that respect, we are also a national actor. But I think we should remember that religions are also, their concern is ultimately global, it is universal, not only local. So my question is, how could we see wide enough? The other point is the question of position of minority religions. The relation between religions on a local level. I think that it belongs to the responsibility of majority religions to establish good relations with minorities. Otherwise, there would not be any common front for peace. And lastly, my question is, what kind of language do we use when we talk about people who believe differently or do not belong to our group? How do I give an example to my own community how to behave or what kind of language to use? We know that brute rhetoric is destructive and therefore respectful language must be constantly applied when talking about other people, also those who differ in belief from us. Those were the points that I had in mind. I have enjoyed greatly being part of this process. Thank you so much.
Your Excellency, thank you for your important ideas about peace and reconciliation in the modern world. Thank you. Ваше превосходительство, уважаемые участники и гости съезда, мы завершили пленарное заседание VIII съезда. Хотел бы искренне поблагодарить всех спикеров и участников форума. Сегодня состоялся активный, заинтересованный и конструктивный диалог. Прозвучали важные идеи и предложения. Особое внимание было уделено роли религиозных лидеров в продвижении культуры мира и противодействии современным вызовам и угрозам. Приверженность диалогу и сотрудничеству является объединяющим фактором для всех участников съезда, что создает условия для синергии наших усилий во имя мира и безопасности на международном уровне. Завтра утром мы продолжим работу в рамках секционных заседаний, где сможем более подробно обсудить поднятые сегодня вопросы и рассмотреть конкретные рекомендации для дальнейшего укрепления взаимодействия и сотрудничества. Благодарю всех за активное участие и ценный вклад в работу нашего съезда. Всем спасибо. До завтра.